So here's the thing that concerns me about SpaceX, minus what I've already said about it, right? Because, I just said, look, back in our June episode, my point was that I think if you're interested in owning SpaceX, because these are two different things. Interest in owning SpaceX stock and interest in owning the IPO. Those are two totally different things, right?
Yeah.
So I'm talking about owning SpaceX stock. And what I said was, if you really want to own SpaceX stocks, I think that there will be a better opportunity for you to have an entry point than the IPO offering and or any subsequent follow-on rally of that stock, which we've seen what happens. I mean, at one point it's trading over $200 a share. It's down now at 112. But here's my concern about SpaceX, the stock, even if you own it right now. Like, let's just say you went in and bought it for 112. You'd be like, man, I just got a discount. Okay. The reality is that 95% of that stock is still locked up. Okay. And that means there are a lot of shares that can't be sold yet. Now, there are some earnings results, I think, coming up the beginning of August, which are going to be telling, but I don't think their earnings are things that people should get excited about, because even if the earnings are blowout, okay, you still have all of these unlock periods. So if you think the pressure on the stock is bad now with only 5% of the float out there actively trading, you've got August 11th, which is when 20% of the remaining 95 gets unlocked. Then you've got September 24th, 14% gets unlocked. October 25th, 14% gets unlocked. And then on November 7th, the remaining 28% gets unlocked. So if you have seen this much price volatility on 5%, like, imagine what happens when all of these people who can't get out of it now can get out of it. And what are they going to do? And I just think that is a massive headwind on this stock. So if an investor is interested in SpaceX, the company, the stock, and what it does and can do in the future to generate earnings as a company, I think you end up with a much better price entry point after the final lockup in November. I'm willing to be wrong on that. I could be totally proven wrong on that. However, I just think that looking at data and how well IPOs do, if you really want to own that stock, you should be considering waiting until November 7th. That's kind of my thought on SpaceX.
The shares that are getting unlocked, they're being unlocked for early investors who, even at 112 a share, have made a ton of money. They've made a ton of money. If you bought it in the secondary market, you're really probably underwater at this point. Right. Or even you bought it at the IPO, you're underwater. So while you might be kind of diamond hands, right, is that old saying about holding on for it to eventually rebound, you got to realize the people that are going to be getting this see this as a huge liquidity event. And that's what we said in June. Right. This is kind of a liquidity event for a lot of people. And I think, to your point, I guess, moving on, and the earnings will be very interesting.
Yeah.
Because the preliminary documents that they had in the IPO show they are not a profitable company and they burn a lot of cash. Yeah. A lot of cash. And candidly, space, while it's a really interesting long-term play, it's a very volatile industry right now. Earlier, I think it was earlier this week or about a week ago, SpaceX had to delay a launch. And guess what happened to their stock on that day? Stock got hammered. Because again, it's just an industry in general that is, I think, very difficult long-term growth. And there's ways that you can kind of see, because SpaceX isn't the only company doing satellites, rocket technology, space exploration. There's actually a ticker for an ETF that you can go and get exposure to a big basket of these kind of style of companies. And funny enough, this is when the naming ticker, it actually really fits. It's ticker UFO. So well done them. That's good marketing.